I created a new MLB team in Alaska, but the journey to become a World Series champion is not going to be easy. The Polar Bears are the laughingstock of the league, entering their third year of existence, but the future seems bright after building a strong farm system in their first two drafts. First round picks Lamar, Werner, and George Villafuerte have emerged as top prospects for the future, and that does not even scratch the surface of the farm system, as we have guys like second baseman Doug Allen and Frank Wellington making me very excited about our future. We might have baseball's worst roster on paper, but I really feel like this squad can surprise a lot of people because so many players experienced breakout years with the Polar Bears. For example, first baseman Bobby Dahlbeck became an all-star in his first season with Alaska, collecting nearly 100 RBIs, while Dairon Blanco emerged as one of baseball's most electric players. Of course, though, there are still many question marks on this team heading into our third season, which is exactly why we're starting this season in spring training. Before we get started, though, I gave you guys a chance to name my draft picks, and let me just say, you did not make this easy for me. I was not expecting to receive over 400 submissions in the first 24 hours, so thank you guys for your support. And just remember, if you didn't make it onto the team this time around, there's always next year and beyond, because I can already tell this is going to be a very long journey. In a shocking turn of events, it seems that every draft pick in Polar Bears history decided to change their name, and I'm not sure if this is just some weird team tradition, but Lamar Werner now becomes Griffin Judd, and last year's first overall pick, George Villafuerte, will now be referred to as LJ Morales. I have truthfully never seen anything like this, as here's Doug Allen, now to be called Doug Forsyth, but if you want to see all 14 player name changes, I do plan on putting that in the description. To start spring training, none of our prospects are on the 40-man roster, and to be completely real with you, that is all because of service time manipulation. I'm a terrible GM for coming straight out and saying that, but at least I'm honest, and here's a home run for Bobby Dahlbeck. He is the biggest slugger on the Polar Bears, and so much of our success is gonna be on his shoulders, but he's definitely not alone, as Tyler Locklear is certainly still mad about getting snubbed for Rookie of the Year. He doubles against the organization that drafted him, but Adele cannot score him, so now it's time to see our pitching, and first up is Devin Smeltzer. The Rule 5 draft pickup may be getting the first start of spring training, but as of right now, I really don't know who our opening day starter is gonna be, especially because we have a lot of AAA level talent. That was certainly a good first impression though, as he retired the side, and now here's Dominic Smith, who we signed last year, but he spent the entire season down in AAA. Even though he's 30 years old, he could be this year's Bobby Dahlbeck just because he developed so much at AAA last year. However, like anybody, he's gonna have to earn a spot on this team because there is a logjam at his position and only 26 spots on the roster. Spring training actually feels important because of how much competition we have on our roster, and I think that's what I like about series like this, because on a team this bad, no one's job is truly safe. Right after facing George Kirby, here is Blake Snell, so even though they're now up 2-1, we're getting some great experience against quality major league arms. Spring training's very important because if you remember last season, we started the season 0-20, so I really hope that we not only find success, but also carry that into the regular season as well. Coming out of the gate, I really feel like Tyler Locklear's rookie year was only the tip of the iceberg, as his bat especially has so much untapped potential, and with this power profile, you cannot go wrong. I told you guys that there are no draft picks on this team yet, and while that is true, there is one undrafted free agent that I am very excited about. Formerly known as Malcolm Arneson, Freddie Talieri Jr. did not sign with the team that drafted him, and therefore elected free agency, and I'm very thankful he fell into our laps because he is a much better catcher than Luis Torrens. He just put runners at the corners, and now Dom Smith scores Joe Adele, so even though it doesn't count, this game is tied. It is the 9th inning, and Bobby Dahlbeck's already gone yard once today, but that is a great play from the shortstop to prevent hit number 2, so now there's one away and make that 2. Unfortunately, we lay a goose egg in the 9th inning, but lucky for us, our bullpen, which is usually our Achilles heel, is gonna keep us in it. There are runners at the corners with none away, and this time Barrero scores the go-ahead run, and if you can't tell, I really want to win this game just because Seattle's pretty solid. Now the bases are loaded for Bubba Thompson, and of course, this is when we decide to rally. All it really took was extra innings to inject some extra life into this offense, and if Bobby Dahlbeck hits a grand slam here, I'm gonna lose it, and right on cue, that is exactly what happens. I did not see that coming, but they left the changeup right over the heart of the plate, and that was an absolute gimme. Bobby goes yard for his second dinger of the game, and the rookie Talieri adds another one as we blow out Seattle, and I really hope that energy transfers to the regular regular season. I don't want to weigh spring training stats too much, but I really feel like Dom Smith has earned his way onto this team, and as far as our rotation goes, it looks like Devin Smeltzer is gonna be the ace. Of course though, this entire roster is gonna be subject to change once we bring up our top prospects, and even though pitching is our weakness right now, bringing up James Nanook, Tristan Rodriguez, and of course Griffin Judd should make a difference. It is time for opening day against the Pirates, and as you can see, we're gonna give up 2 singles to start the day, so our new ace Devin Smeltzer is already off to a bad start with the Polar Bears. I am still very fortunate we only gave up 1 run in that rally, and I'm feeling pretty good with Dairon Blanco on first base, but hold that thought because he got gunned down. To be fair, it did not take a genius to know he was gonna take off, but if we had scored him, we would have gotten this game right back in our favor. We really need Smeltzer to get his head in the game, and that was a crazy swing and miss. And now here's a full count against Davis as he retires the side. That is very reminiscent of what we saw in the spring, and now here's another guy who played well in the preseason, Dominic Smith. He's gonna double for our first extra base hit of the season, and now there are runners at the corners, so we have a chance to score him with 2 outs, but we pop up. We miss another chance to get on the board, and now they make us pay. So rather than having a potentially tie game, it is 2-0, but here we go. Bobby Dahlbeck drives this one deep into left center field, and that is not coming back. It is not a shocker to see our all-star first baseman mash the first homer of the year, so we are right back in this one at the end of the 3rd inning. If we want to win this game, we cannot give up another run, and here we go. That is a beautiful double play. Obviously, we have a lot of range in our outfield, but finally we see some solid defense from the infield, and here's Dom Smith continuing his great day. Once again, though, there are 2 outs, but this time Jose Barrero smokes this one down the line in left field, and that is gonna tie the game. We are back in this game, and now Smeltzer's in a groove, so it really feels like all the momentum is in our favor, and right on cue, Jamison Hanna, are you kidding me? He turned on that pitch, and it was not gonna come back, as we have scored 3 unanswered runs. If you remember, Hanna was on the original roster, and I'm definitely shocked that he's been as good as he's been. That is our 2nd dinger of the season, and now Tyler Locklear's gonna get going, so there's another guy in scoring position, but unfortunately, the inning ends right here. Regardless, it feels great to be in the driver's seat of a game that was once not looking very good, and you've gotta be kidding me, Dom Smith. To be fair, they left that curveball right over the plate, but Dominic Smith might be our best hitter. Another player who's looked great today is Jose Barrero, and I think that's his 3rd double of the day, but despite his great success, we have not scored him so far, at least until now. Our bullpen still is not very good, so I'm kinda nervous for Smeltzer to exit the game, and early on, my fears are very justified as Dre Jameson just gave up an RBI double. Dre's supposed to be one of our best relief options, but I really can't trust that because right now he is getting shelled, so it is very clear to me that our bullpen will not let this be a decisive win. It's the bottom of the 8th, and our last chance to cushion our lead going into the 9th inning as Barrero doubles again. We have a chance to put him away, but we strike out, so it's all up to our closer, Joe Barlow. I'm confident after that strikeout, but here is a huge double down the line, so I'm a bit nervous with O'Neal Cruz at the plate, but thankfully he grounds this right to first base. Now Barlow needs one more out with the tying run at 3rd, as opening day comes down to this, and there's a swing and the miss at the curveball, and the Alaska Polar Bears win it 5-4. What an amazing game as Devin Smeltzer goes 6 innings, only giving up 2 runs, and of course our offense was on fire today. Stop the count, we are winning this division, but of course there's still 161 games to go, and we still lost this series. We're trying to recover against Boston, but we're down 1 run, and we're in danger of stranding the tying run at 3rd base as we do exactly that. Winning this type of game would be a great indication of how good we're actually going to be this season, but things are not looking too hot after that double play in the 9th. Dairon Blanco's our last chance, and he draws a walk, so there are 2 aboard for Jose Barrero. If there's anyone who can get us out of this, it's gonna be him, but unfortunately I spoke too soon as we stranded even more base runners and lost this game. That drops us all the way down to 1-5, so I think that's a sign it's time to move on to scouting for the MLB draft, and as you can see, it's looking like there could potentially be not 1, but 2 generational players in the class. If we want to turn our season around, we're gonna have to do it in division play as Dom Smith gets a hold of this one into right field, but it's caught. That was so close to a lead-taking 2-run shot, but we're gonna lose this one. So even though our offense is not doing terrible to start the year, we're just losing too many close games. That is so disappointing, but now in the next game of the series, we're looking for a redemption. However, the Mariners just tied the game at 2 apiece, release, and now Stone Garrett launches this into left center field, and that is not coming back. The season might seem pretty bleak right now, but remember that at the end of the month, we're going to be able to call up so many of our top prospects, and hopefully those reinforcements will be enough to make us a decent squad. Even though we're faced with 2 outs, down 1 in the 9th inning, this is not over yet as Talieri keeps this fair down the line, and here comes Bobby Dahlbeck rounding third, and I think he has decent enough speed to just barely beat this out to score the tying run. Our undrafted rookie catcher saves the day, so after a bit of drama, we're going to extra innings. Right off the bat, we have 2 runners on and make that 3, so we have the bases loaded with 0 away, and we're trying the suicide squeeze, which fails miserably and turns into a triple play. This is usually a bread and butter play for me, but in this series, I have had no success with it, and I think this is an all-time low. It is classic Polar Bears to have this game in the bag and find the craziest possible way to blow it, as this is going into foul grounds, and what a catch. Don't get me wrong, that was an incredible play, but the winning run was able to tag up to third base. So no matter what, we are in a bit of trouble, but fortunately more gets out of it. No matter what happens here, I certainly will not be trying another suicide squeeze, because I don't want to risk it, but a deep fly out does advance the go-ahead run to third. While that ground out could not score him, here's Dom Smith, who pulls this into right field and makes that triple play look a little better. We are now just 3 outs away from finishing up a very tight game, and we need Barlow to hold on to secure our 3rd win of the year. It looks like they're going to try the suicide squeeze, and I'm glad it didn't work for them. So now there are 2 outs as they tried it again, and that is not going to wait. Our catcher is waiting for him, and that is how this one ends. That was truly chaos ball until the very end, and I think the most encouraging thing about these games is our offense is really producing. After our first week of scouting, Adrian Santos does not look very good, but right now I'm not worried because this game really likes to make you think these guys aren't generational. I do want to finish his profile, but first things first, we're going to scout Mustafa Martinez because as you can see, this guy is a pure hitter. I would love to see us turn our season around against a very good Philadelphia team, and Chavez is going to get in safe, and with no one away, I'm trying the suicide squeeze with one of the best bunters on the squad, and it finally works. However, we are not done because Taylor's bunt rating is also pretty good, so once again, I'm taking the calculated risk, but that time it did not work out so good, and they double us up. I am so surprised because prior to this series, I never had bad luck with that play, so for whatever reason, this game loves to screw me over. We could not take advantage of having Bubba Thompson on base, so we're gonna have to settle this in extra innings, and right off the bat, Talieri delivers an RBI. Considering his high floor, even as a rookie, I kind of expected better numbers than this, but of course, there's still plenty of time left in the season for him to turn things around. Tyler Locklear also has pretty similar numbers on the year, but unlike Freddie, he cannot deliver. That means we stranded 2 runners, and with this team, you really need as much insurance as you can get as they launch this, and while it's gonna be caught, their runner advances to third. Considering everything, I'm glad that stayed in the yard, and we're even luckier that our second baseman was in position to make that play, as Barlow might have scared me for a second, but we're able to get the victory. That was not pretty, but we're closer to 4th place in our division. But going back to scouting for a second, the game really tried to convince us that Santos was not generational, and it looks like they're doing the same exact thing with Mustafa Martinez, who falls to the 30th rank in the class. Now, of course, I could be wrong, but I think I've played this game enough to know that one, if not both of these guys are gonna be generational, and at this point, it's really just a matter of figuring out who it is. For now, though, I am gonna look at some other options, and if you remember Chris Delgado, that's because he was in last year's class. I didn't even scout him last year because of how bad his offense is. At least in this video game, though, I really don't believe in drafting fielding first prospects, and I feel like they never turn out as good as you want them to be. Unlike most drafts, there's actually a lot of very intriguing position players, one of them being Frankie Jowers, and my interest in him is entirely because of that power. Unfortunately, though, after a week of scouting, it's very clear he's not going to be a target. After another rough start to the year, it seems we're positively trending more and more towards mediocrity, and another extra innings win against a playoff team would definitely boost our confidence as Taylor dribbles this up the middle, and in a very short affair, we win our 10th game. I can definitely see the improvement from even our first week of the year, as these are our numbers at the end of April, and I have to say, they could be a lot better or a lot worse. If anything, I feel like our offense is underperforming where it was last year, but also sort of in a trade-off, it looks like our starting rotation's been a bit better. To my surprise, we're actually more towards the middle of the pack pack when it comes to ERA, but of course there is a trade-off to that, being that we're a bottom 3 team in runs scored. However, I did reveal there is going to be a huge shakeup in this video, and now that we're a month into the season, I think it's finally time to bring up our first wave of prospects. To no one's surprise, the first draft pick of the series, Judd, is ready to make the move, and even though his stats have not been great at AAA, I truly believe he can become one of the best pitchers in the game. Without further ado, we're calling him up, but he's gonna have to earn the title of our new ace, especially because Tristan Rodriguez and James Nanook are also pretty close. For now, we're holding back on bringing those starters up, but there's one player who isn't a starter that I'm very interested in giving a shot. I am very interested in adding Avi Tick to the bullpen because he offers a lot of strikeout upside, and for a unit that's been so inconsistent, that is gonna be a big deal. We have the #1 farm system in baseball, so clearly there's a lot of talent in this organization, and for my last call up, I want to bring up a big bat, and I really thought it was going to be LJ Morales. There's no doubt in my mind that he is a superstar level talent, but as you can see, he really needs to work a bit more at getting on base, so even though the power is definitely there, I'm going to hold off and elect for a more seasoned option at a position of need in Doug Forsyth. That is only 3 out of 10 players who I consider to be very close to MLB ready, but obviously I don't want to rush any prospects, so each of these guys are gonna have to earn their stripes. Griffin Judd is making his MLB debut against the Cleveland Guardians, but before we get to him, here is Doug Forsyth, who flies out to center field. You guys have no idea how excited I am to add some prospects to a core that's already pretty decent, but I do want to remind you that while the future does look bright, there's gonna be some growing pains. As you can see, Judd does not have a lot of energy right now, so maybe I'm setting him up for failure, but I at least want to see what he can do. I think being left-handed already looks like a pretty solid advantage for him, and just from his first couple batters, he is not looking like much of a strikeout guy at all. His fastball only tops out around 95 miles an hour, so I'm really interested seeing how well he holds up. Just like we did on opening day, we have to get some run support against the Guardians, and this is a pretty good start because Locklear just put runners at the corners, and now Barrero's gonna finish the job with a sac fly. Not much would feel better than getting Griffin a win on his debut, and for a split second, I thought Forsyth sent that one. With power in the 40s, I feel like we're gonna see that a lot, but of course, we have a lot of other guys who can hit for power, and Bobby Dahlbeck just doubled. That is gonna put another runner in scoring position, but Joe Adell cannot capitalize, so we are not wasting any time putting our brand new pitcher to the test. He does not have a flashy arm, but instead, I see a lot of George Kirby in his game, as so far he's shown very good ability to pitch to contact and not allow walks. Right now though, he is definitely wishing for more run support, and Tyler Locklear delivers, so Griffin's on his way to a shutout debut. That was his first career strikeout, and the slider rings up another, so by the looks of it, our first ever draft pick is paving the way for the rest of our young prospects as Hannah doubles again. It really feels like we found our footing, especially as Michael Chavez goes deep to left field. That was the first pitch we saw against their bullpen, and he obliterated it, so now we're really cooking with gas, and this is a 4-hit day for Bobby Dahlbeck. We are so lucky Judd fell to pick number 4, but now that his day's done, I do want to check out Avi Tick. If he wants the closer role, he's gonna need to earn it, but right now, he cannot hit the plate. It is his first game though, so maybe he's shaking off the nerves, as there's his first strikeout, immediately followed up by a ground ball double play. Not only did we debut 2 rookie pitchers, but they earned a shutout, so I really think it's arguable that this was one of the most exciting games in franchise history. That feeling is only going to continue going into scouting though, because I think I found one of my favorite players in left fielder Kurt Key, because as you can see, that potential combination of power and speed could be deadly. However, I definitely want to see more games because we've won 7 out of our last 10, and we're going into a make or break series against Houston. This is a very good team, so it's not going to be easy to win. However, we do exactly that as we shut them out 14-0 with 24 total hits. Most notably though, rookie Doug Forsyth hit 2 doubles for a 4-hit performance, so even though it took a while to get going, May is off to an excellent start. I can't believe we have a chance to win this series 3-1, but it all comes down to this final game. However, Forsyth got caught stealing, and now the inning is over. That means our backs are against the wall, as they're trying to close us out in the 9th inning, and we just need 1 run. Unfortunately, Dahlbeck flies out, and while Locklear is going to get on board here, you always have to worry about the double play, and that was a meatball we should have crushed. We did lose this game, but splitting the series series is kind of a win, as we just gave our loaded division leader a huge run for their money. Last week in scouting, I was very excited about Kurt Key, and while I still think he's going to be a good player, I would not take him at number 4, so just being realistic, we might have to settle for another starting pitcher. However, I think Sean Fisher more than makes up for Kurt Key, as I just scouted him, and he was the number 5 player in the draft, coming in with amazing power. I know we're absolutely loaded at first base with Bobby Dahlbeck and William Trout coming up, but remember that Bobby is very close to free agency, while Dominic Smith only has this year left on his deal. Even with William Trout very close to making his debut, we're gonna need a new DH, and I really think Fisher can be that guy. Of course, remember that every single drafted player in this series will be renamed based on your submissions in the comments below, so be sure to do that for a chance to be on the team. It feels like we are slowly but surely climbing out of the division cellar, as depending on who's pitching, we're actually competitive, as we just tied it up against the Diamondbacks, and Joe Adell gets a hold of this one, but unfortunately we leave 2 runners stranded. The reason I wanted to show that play is because it feels like whenever we're watching, Joe Adell just does not play good, but that really could not be further from the truth, as he's having an even better season than last year. That is probably the biggest reason we have not called up LJ Morales, and now in the 9th inning, Jameson Hanna goes deep. His power in this series has been so impressive, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he's the only polar bear from the season 1 roster still on the team, as Corbin Carroll just tripled in the bottom of the 9th. With 99 speed, I know that pretty much any deep flyout is going to score him, just like this one will, so our closer Joe Barlow blows the lead. After 14 solid games, maybe it's finally time to consider Avi Tick for the role, especially because they are the same overall, and Joe Barlow really is not a closer. We're in extra innings, and here is Doug Forsyth, who's definitely had his moments off camera, but now, even though we were late on this pitch, we're gonna retake the lead. I just hinted at this, but we're bringing in Avi Tick in the bottom of the 10th to close it out, and of course they lay down a perfect bunt. That is very unfortunate, but at least it doesn't go down as an earned run, and he gets out of the inning, and he's definitely gonna get another chance in the bottom of the 11th for hopefully a save. Unfortunately though, we could not score, so we need Avi to lock in, but that is not gonna happen. They go Oppo Taco, it stays fair, and they walk it off. Of course, this has been a very positive start to his career, but clearly he's not ready to be the closer, as we lost a very close game, but we're looking for redemption as Freddie Taglieri, the rookie catcher, is going yard. The very next game was tied 0-0, so I decided to jump in, and I'm very glad I did. I still cannot believe we got a 75 overall undrafted catcher, and his numbers this season have been more than serviceable, as that 3-run homer was his biggest moment of the season, and I'm very curious to see how long Freddie can hold off Frankie Turner, who's the guy we actually drafted. Our 4th round pick is playing very well in his first season of AA, which could earn him a AAA promotion very shortly, and even though Freddie hits for a lot more power than Frankie, his ceiling is infinitely higher. Catcher is just one of the many logjams on this roster, and that brings me to the next player I want to bring up, and if you were wondering, William Trout is in fact related to Randy. Randy Trout was the first draft pick of my Portland Pickles series, and developed into one of the most beloved players in channel history, and I really think that William, aka Willie Trout, is the next in line for your affection. He is definitely ready to come up, but the problem here is we have 3 first basemen on the roster, and at some point this season, I think it would be wise to sell high on Dom Smith to be able to clear that roster spot. Meanwhile, after a few weeks of coming up pretty empty in scouting, I finally found another gem in center fielder Arnold Ishii. On paper, he's not super impressive, but that power really impresses me, and while I already feel pretty confident with the selection, I wanted to get one more option, and I think Ishii is just the guy. We are very close to the MLB draft, but first we're looking for an extra inning sweep against the Colorado Rockies, and I know it's just Colorado, but honestly, a sweep is a sweep, and I think it's an even bigger deal for a team that's really struggled with consistency. We're trying to walk it off, and that is just bad luck straight to second base, so we're in danger of stranding the winning run at third base, but there we go, this one drops into center field, and we're able to bust out the brooms. It is finally time for the MLB draft, and my plan for the number 4 selection is either going to be Adrian Santos, Mustafa Martinez, or Manny Esposito. I'm really hoping that one of those players falls to us because we've had pretty good luck so far, but in the event they all get taken back to back, we're going to be kinda reaching. I still think a guy like Arnold Ishii can be a more than serviceable center fielder, and I would even accept this very high floor for Elvis McKee, but the most important pick of this draft may be our second one. Sean Fisher might be one of the biggest gems I've ever found, because I don't think I've ever seen power like that, but of course, I'm also banking on other teams not knowing about him. I'm going to be very upset if someone overdrafts him in the first round, but unless I take him at number 4 overall, which crazy enough, I've actually thought about, there's really nothing we can do. Martinez and Santos are both going to be very, very good, and I just need one of these first 3 teams to mess up. Not to my surprise, Moustakas goes at number 1, followed by Esposito. So unlike when Griffin Judd fell to pick number 4 in season 1, we do not get lucky this time. That is very unfortunate right off the bat, and all I'm thinking is if we do not get Sean Fisher, which I think we're going to, but if we don't, I'm going to be very upset. Our scouts are really liking Arnold Ishii from Japan, and I can definitely see why, with plus speed and fielding ability, along with pretty decent power for a center fielder. After losing all 3 of my top targets, I really think this is the best we can do, so let's hope we can at least develop him. Now the wait for Sean Fisher begins, and while I'm still very hopeful, I've seen players like him get snatched up in the top 5. For example, this second baseman is ranked 81st in the class and just went number 5, and then just 2 picks later, a starting pitcher ranked 90 went at number 7. It is all about luck, but of course the game's gonna punish me as he goes number 20, and honestly I should have known better. Just for position value, I think I prefer Ishii, but that still really hurts, as not only Fisher, but both of my backup options for the very next pick are off the board. My draft board is really not in good shape after this, but there's one player that I cannot afford to pass on, and even though it might be a reach, David Suzuki's actually the number 1 player on my board, so we're gonna take him. That's a guaranteed good potential player. Our situation is not getting any better, so this is on pace to be our worst draft ever, and honestly, just to make the safe pick, I'm gonna go for this guaranteed high potential center fielder. I know he's 23 years old, but hopefully the contact and speed combo can help him develop fast, and we're minimizing the risk in a draft that really has been a nightmare. After drafting a couple players with high ceilings, I'm gonna bring it to the floor, and at least on paper, Eddie Bruno looks like pretty solid trade bait to maybe bring in another prospect down the line. I'm just gonna do it. I am living a nightmare in round number 4, as there are only 4 available players left on my board, and 3 of them are discovery pitchers, with 2 of them being relievers. At this point, I'm gonna go down the board, starting with Houston Rodriguez, and lucky for me, both of my bullpen arms are still available. Usually in this spot, I would prioritize the position guy, but this shortstop really does not look very good. But on the other hand, Pedro Rodriguez looks amazing. He's my pick. At least we got the number 4 player on my board in round 5, and now in round number 6, we are gonna take the shortstop, ending a very forgetful draft. I would not be surprised if that became the worst draft of the entire series, but we're trying to forget about it against Seattle as Dairon Blanco launches an easy triple. It would be really nice to secure a win going into the All-Star break, and thankfully for us, this late rally was enough to get it done. We're likely not making the playoffs this season, but we're 40-56 at the break, so that means we're already 15 wins away from last season's win total. Funny enough, our offense is actually playing way worse than it did last year, as we may be a little bit more balanced across the board, but definitely less explosive. To my surprise, our pitching, led by rookie sensation Griffin Judd, is keeping us in games, and dare I say, we might actually have the best bullpen in baseball. Honestly, the success is definitely noticeable, as we've won more close games than ever, and I never expected this team to be top 10 for ERA. I really want to start the second half strong, calling up another starting pitcher in James Nanook, and while he's only 76 overall, I feel like he's going to surprise people, especially because his name literally means polar bear. Just for realism, I do think we need to sit LJ Morales a full year, but of course, there is another bat that I want to call up, and I think you already know who it's gonna be. It is time for William Trout to follow in his older brother's footsteps, coming up to the show at 20 years old. In order to bring him up, we do need to clear a roster spot, and I hinted about trading Dominic Smith earlier, but I think I'm finally gonna do it, and just because this is the final year of his deal, the Diamondbacks are gonna trade him for basically nothing. First baseman Fisher Clark is probably not gonna make the majors for us, but could be some trade bait down the road, so I do feel like this is a pretty good move for both sides. As far as the All-Star game goes, Bobby Dahlbeck made the game for the second year in a row, but the other big surprise here is Tyler Locklear sneaking in with that 235 batting average. I want to say this has been a sophomore slump slump for him, but actually looking at the numbers, it's pretty close to last season. So I'm really glad that no one from last year's core has really regressed, and James Nanook's career is not off to a good start. There is a leadoff home run for Willie Castro, and while it's really cool that this guy's fastball can exceed 100 miles an hour, I really need them not to hit it. Apparently in this universe, the Royals have Juan Soto, and I don't know what couch cushion they found that money in, but that's ridiculous. At the rate things are going, we really need our offense to come together, and how about this? Doug Forsyth helping out the fellow rookie. That is the first home run we've actually seen him hit, and it felt really good, especially because it's going to tie this game, and now Nanook cooks with 3 strikeouts. At least to this point, Tyler Locklear is not deserving of an all-star nod, but even then, I still consider him one of our top prospects, and we just loaded the bases. We definitely have to be careful of the double play in this spot, but in a huge act of generosity, they left a breaking ball right in the zone for Hannah, who's gonna clear the bases. Even on Hall of Fame, this game might seem easy, but at least in my opinion, it really just goes to show that overall ratings don't matter. By the way, that was an 11 strikeout debut for James Nanook, so whether he stays a starter long term or switches to the bullpen, I feel like we have a solid foundation piece. We're still not winning very consistently, but we did just beat the Yankees 14-5 in a game where William Trout led the team in RBIs. This was also James Nanook's second start, and he added another 6 strikeouts and 2 earned runs. So just like we did in season 2, we can blow last year's win total out of the water. To no one's surprise though, after dominating the Yankees, we're trailing by 2 to Toronto, but maybe not for long as Forsyth sends this deep, going back to the wall where it is not far enough. That was so close to a game-tying nuke, and there's a pop-up. So even though this season has been a ton of fun, we are still a long way from where we need to be. We're not going to be able to fix all of our problems this season, but it is never too early to start daydreaming about next season, and the first step of that is viewing our brand new draft class, which I may or may not have messed up. Our first 2 drafts were good enough that I am not asking for this to be perfect, but at least give me a couple good players, and I'll take it. First and foremost, I need to point out just how hilarious it is to me that the final player on my draft board ended up being 99 potential, and I gotta be real, I had no idea this was coming, because I think when I initially scouted him, his range only went up to like 92. As you can see though, aside from a couple stats, he's just a really terrible baseball player, so being completely real, that 99 potential's fun, but it doesn't really hold any real weight for me. I wish that Arnold Ishii was just a slightly better player, but I cannot complain about a center fielder coming in with plus power and very good athleticism at only 18 years old. This guy's gonna take a little longer than the other first round picks we've had, but I'm excited to see what he can do in the future. However, I do need to address the elephant in the room because there were 3 players I wanted in the first round instead who all went back to back. The first one, Mustafa Martinez, is indeed generational, and then at number 2, the Giants took Manny Esposito, and honestly, I kind of thought he was going to be better. However, out of everybody, the one guy I really thought I was going to be able to land was Adrian Santos, and as you can see, there was not 1, but 2 generational players in this class, and that really breaks my heart. I'm glad we got Arnold Ishii, but that's a prime example of getting screwed over by the draft lottery, but I really feel like we did our best to make up for it, getting not 1, but 2 high potential pitching options. Then I grabbed another high potential guy in 23-year-old center fielder Harold Hunter, and honestly, I think he's got a good shot to develop into a starting caliber player. The same goes for Eddie Bruno, but even though he's a really good player, he's not even the best overall one in this class. That title goes to reliever Pedro Rodriguez, and I gotta be real with you guys, I almost never scout relief pitchers, but when I do, they're gonna look exactly like this. At 21 years old, he can come into our bullpen right away, and honestly, that makes up for pretty much the entire draft. By the way, I can confirm that the Padres broke my heart taking Sean Fisher, as I've never seen power numbers look quite like this. Entering August, we are tied up with the Tigers in the 7th, and William Trout just popped up what I feel could have been a grand slam. It is moments like those where I really want a true superstar in this lineup, but just 1 inning later, Luis Torrens goes the other way, and Adele scores all the way from first. However, there's still a runner on second base, so we are not done yet, and Jose Barrero gives this one a ride into the gap, and that will one-hop the fence. The Polar Bears are on their way to another win, but first we're going for the save, and we're giving Avi Tick another chance. He had no problem putting them away 1-2-3, so we are 56-72 approaching September. As you know, the roster's expanding deadline in September, so that could be a great opportunity to finally call up LJ Morales, because even though he's not dominating, we all know he's ready to go. Before we can get there though, we have a big series against the Astros, but they broke a 7th inning tie, so as you can see, we're in a bit of a pickle, but James Nanook gets us out of it. Now all we need is 1 run to tie it back up, but even though our offense has improved a lot since the call-ups, that is not going to be easy. All-Star Hunter Brown's still in the game, going for the complete shutout, and as the scoreboard can tell you, we have not had a lot of success, but here's a double for Doug Forsyth. Despite not starting the year at the MLB level, Doug Forsyth could be in the running for Rookie of the Year, which is always great to see, as he is already hitting 3rd in the lineup, and Bobby Dahlbeck's gonna send him home on a no-doubter. He just turned on the very high pitch to give us the lead, and the Polar Bears always seem to find magic at the very end. Next year is gonna be the last of Bobby's deal, and since I could not draft Sean Fisher, maybe I should extend him, because just looking at the stats, you can already tell that this year's very similar to his breakout 2025 season, and he was also born in Washington, which is not too far from Alaska. After this game, I'm definitely checking out what he wants, but if we can't afford him, I'm gonna trade him at peak value, as here's a pop-up with 2 outs, and Avi Tick's gonna close another game. We're still not a good team, but beating the Astros is a huge deal, because we knocked them out of the division lead. It is the start of September, and time to expand our roster, and while I did think about adding LJ Morales for the last month of the year, it really doesn't make sense, because all this is gonna do is waste a month of service time, which we cannot afford. However, I'm 99% sure he's gonna win American League Rookie of the Year, and since that would reward him a full year of service time anyways, I definitely want to start him on opening day and potentially earn a draft pick. I know those rules can be a little convoluted, but I do promise that this is really the best thing for our team at this point, as there's no point wasting rookie service time with a month left in the year. With all that being said, I feel like we've really done everything we can this season, so I'm just gonna rip off the band-aid and sim the rest of the year. Now that I see that we won 69 games, I really don't think this season could have gone any better, and I was really not kidding when I said that all of our prospects were gonna make a big difference. William Trout may have been our last call-up of the season, but he played well enough to earn an increase to his potential, and also put up a really good 931 OPS. His career is definitely off to a better start than his brother Randy, and getting up to B potential could make a huge difference down the line. It is no surprise to see our dynamic duo of Bobby Dahlbeck and Dairon Blanco have another solid year together, but unfortunately, other key players like Tyler Locklear and Jamison Hanna kinda fell off. However, to make up for that, I was very pleased with shortstop and utility man Jose Barrero, who like William Trout played so well that he earned an upgrade to B potential. Out of everything though, our pitching rotation was definitely the best story of the season, as we certainly were not good, but the call-ups of Griffin, Judd, and James Nanook made massive differences. This was the first time of the series that I've really been able to trust our rotation, but that is not even the best part, as we had the best bullpen in all of baseball. I've mentioned a lot of rookies, but quietly, maybe our best one was Avi Tick, who I said was gonna have to earn the closer role, and he did exactly that, earning probably more upgrades than anyone else on the team, including a very elusive boost to A potential. Ever since he got called up, Griffin Judd was in the Rookie of the Year race, and even though it sucks he didn't win it, that means that he's not rewarded a year of service time, which is a huge deal. When you have a team that's this poor, you really need to control your contracts as long as possible, and as you can see, we're doing exactly that, offering Bobby Dahlbeck an extension. I'm definitely grateful we made more money last year, because we have a lot of guys hitting arbitration, so we're gonna need every penny, and once again, I'm making the choice to not go after any top free agents. You could make the argument that we need to get to the next level, but personally, I think we're doing just fine developing players, although I am making our biggest signing yet, bringing in Colby Allard for 2 years, $6.9 million. That is not a lot of money in the grand scope of baseball, but for us, it is a fortune, so I really hope that bringing him in can help our rotation out even more, as they took a huge step last year, and if they take another, we could make it to the playoffs. We're one of baseball's best up-and-coming teams, but I can't help but feel we could be even better if the draft lottery hadn't shafted us. We picked at number 4, and my favorite 3 players went right in front of us, so I am very relieved to see that this year's gonna make up for it. That was another very simple offseason, but just the development of our players is how we're gonna improve in this series, so let me know what you thought of this video and how you think we're gonna do next season. Once again, be sure to submit your player names below if you want to be in this series, and if you did enjoy this video and want to see more of my content, click right here to see more.